5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello, my name is Archie.
And my name's Grace.
We were going to interview our granddad about about different farms in the UK. Here's our questions. How do you know about farming, Grandad?
Grandad, I was born in Edinburgh a long, long time ago, but I was brought up on a farm in the Scottish borders. It was a hill farm. My dad kept sheep and cattle, and then in due course, after I left school, I went to university and I studied agriculture. And when I left that, I went to the Scottish Department of Agriculture, and I visited farms and farmers and talked to them about their animals and about their crops and about the drainage and all the things you do on a farm. So that's my background in farming, and I did that for 40 years nearly.
Okay.
Our second question is, how are farms different to each other?
And farms are made up of lots of different fields or lots of hill ground, and there's usually a fence or something around the outside, and that tells you where the boundary of the farm is and where the next one starts.
Okay, let's
Hello. What are the different types of farms in the UK?
Oh, there are lots and lots of different types, but the main ones are hill farms. Those are the ones that are up in the, as the name suggests, up in the hills, up in the poorer land, and they usually have normally sheep and maybe some cattle, and not very much in the way of crop. Then there are farms which rear only cattle, and they keep them inside a lot of the time, and they'll keep them outside some of the time as well, and they fatten the cattle up, and the cattle go away to an abattoir to be slaughtered, and then they go into the counter for meat, for human consumption. Then, when you come down the hill a little bit, you get arable farms, and that's where the land is better, and the farmers there grow mainly crop. They plough the land, and they cultivate it, and fertilise it, and then they sow seeds, and after a reasonable summer, one hopes, the crop grows and matures, and then they harvest the crop. And you get lots of different crops. You get barley, and you get wheat, and you get oilseed rape. That's the yellow one you see all around the countryside at this time of year. You get turnips, you get potatoes, which are grown for people to eat, obviously, as well. Carrots, and lots of vegetables, things like that. You also get specialist farms. You get farms that keep only poultry. They have lots and lots of hens, and maybe ducks, and they may have turkeys, and they're usually kept inside, and they produce either, well, the hens will produce eggs, or they may be rearing broilers or something like that, birds for eating which you get in the stores again. Specialist pig farms where they grow only pigs, they only have pigs. And again, they rear them up, and the pigs go away for bacon and for sausages and things like that. What other types you have? In England, certainly you have, in the very south of England, you have specialist farms growing hops, which are needed for making beer and things like that. You get farms that grow fruit, orchards, things like that. Again, that would happen further south rather than not so much in Scotland. But in Scotland mainly you would have, and dairy, of course, most importantly as well, dairy farms as well, where you get your milk from. These are all the cows that are kept, but only kept to produce milk. I think that's most of it. They're split into this hill land, grassland, and arable land, basically.
That's good. The fourth question, what are the things that help farmers to decide whether to keep crops or animals?
What are the things that decide that? Well, the kind of land that they have, if they've got very hilly land and very, very shallow soil, then that may only be suitable for growing grass. And if it can only grow grass, then you'd keep animals, and the animals would convert the grass into food, and they would grow, and then you'd use it that way. If the soil is reasonably deep or quite deep and fertile, then you grow crops. A lot would depend. If you're in the west of the country, certainly west of Scotland, you have there's a lot of rain falls there, so that we tend to get mostly grass growing there because crops don't like too much rain. In the east side of the country, there's not quite so much rain, but just with the right amount of rain to make crops grow other than grass, and to dry up in time for harvest as well. So the weather would determine one part what the farmer would grow, whether or not his land was good or bad or high or low. That would determine things. There are many considerations. How much money he has as well, because it costs a lot of money to set the farm up, and to be whether he can get that money or not. That would determine whether he was going to what he was going to do as well, how much stock he could have. Okay.
Okay. 5th question. Has farming changed since you were a little boy? If it has, how?
The little boy changed dramatically since I was a little boy. And even from the time before I was a little boy, long before I was born as well, farming used to be carried out by lots and lots of people, and using horses and things like that to cultivate the land. Nowadays, when I was a little boy, the tractors and things were on available then, and they did a lot more work than horses could do. They were able to cultivate more land and to grow better crops and things like that with the tractors. Since then, things have got, all the machinery has got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and now the tractors you see them on the road are absolutely huge. They're so big you can hardly pass them sometimes, you know, and the machines used for harvesting crops are very, very huge as well. But situations have changed. But the government, the government gives farmers, or has given farmers, a subsidy that gives them money to grow certain crops and for even certain animals. And since I was a little boy, we have moved from being a sole country into being part of the European Union, and we have to do very much what the EEC says we should grow and what we shouldn't grow, and that determines to a large extent how things go as well. So things have changed a lot.
What happens if it doesn't rain or if there is a flood?
If there's not enough rain, the land will dry out and become, the crops in the land will wither up and die. Sometimes if the soil is very light, if there's a lot of sand in the soil, it can blow away. And that happened in America in the mid-1930s. If you crop the same piece of land too often, the organic matter in the soil is used up, and the soil has nothing to hold it together. And if it gets very, very dry and very windy, the soil just blows away and disappears. And sometimes, it sounds very strange, but sometimes you have to take snowplows out in the summer to clear roads because they're blocked with soil. And that seems a bit daft, but that's the way it happens sometimes. On the other hand, if there's too much rain, then the land becomes waterlogged. There's no air in the soil for the crops to get to, and they drown. And again, they just wither up and fade away, and that's it, and the crop gets lost.
Awesome.
Okay. 7th question. What happens when one animal dies of a disease and passes it on to all the other animals?
Yes, that can happen. It depends what happens, how it happens. There are certain diseases which are very contagious. One of the worst of the lot is foot and mouth disease, and that's what we had in 2001 in Britain. And what happens then is, if it's found, then the animals become very, very sick, and they can recover. But the policy of the government to make things better there is to slaughter them all, and then they're all burned. By and large, depends on the type of disease. Sometimes animals become sick, but they don't pass the disease on to something else. And if the farmer sees something happening and he gets his vet in, and the vet can deal with it quickly, now then he can vaccinate the animals, just the same as children get vaccinations for mumps and rubella and things like that. Animals can get vaccinations as well to help prevent disease from striking. But if it is a very contagious disease, then what happens then is usually that all the animals in the farm are killed and either burned or disposed of some other way.
8th question. What happens if one of the animals wanders off and all the others follow and the farmer can't catch them in time?
Oh, he's got a big problem then, doesn't he? That usually happens if there's Sometimes it happens that people go into a field and leave the gate open and animals can walk away, wander away. Usually what happens is the neighbours will see what's happening and they'll help the farmer to round up his own animals and bring them back.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for answering our questions, Grandad.
welcome.
And thank you for teaching us about farming.
And that was our
And that-
homework then.
And that's all. Bye.